Rock and Roller Coaster at Disney's Hollywood Studios is easily one of the most iconic roller coasters out there, opening back in July of 1999. However, in just a few short months, it'll be giving its final rides to make way for a new version of the Rock and Roller Coaster starring the Muppets. But what makes, or depending on when you're watching this, made Rock and Roller Coaster so special? Let's find out. What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today's subject is of course the Rock and Roller Coaster starring Aerosmith. And as a fan of classic rock, and especially Aerosmith, I'm gonna miss this thing. I have a few classic rock records displayed on my wall, and Aerosmith's greatest hits is one of them. Disney finally built a high-thrill inverting coaster at the Orlando Resort to compete with Universal as they were opening their doors to Islands of Adventure in late 1999. As with many of Disney's roller coasters, they had Vekoma manufacture this one, and they would go on to manufacture rides like Tron Light Cycle Run and Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. The ride was placed on Sunset Boulevard alongside the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, making it one of the most iconic duos in theme park history and easily two of my personal favorite rides of all time, purely based off nostalgia. So given how iconic the ride was, what was the ride experience like? To start the experience, guests make their way to Sunset Boulevard to the left of the Hollywood Tower Hotel. The entrance features a giant guitar and the strings eventually turn into coaster track with a train on the end of it. The area plays music from other iconic bands and not just Aerosmith. The actual entrance to the queue is off to the side and it is mostly outdoor, but once you make your way inside, it becomes a music studio filled with plaques and posters. Next up is of course one of the most iconic pre-shows in theme park history. The band's manager storms into their studio and tells them they're running late for a show, but they can't leave us behind, so they come up with an idea to take us all to the concert via a limo. The pre-show is so cheesy, but it's awesome and truly one of a kind. There's so many quotable lines here that I will miss hearing on every trip to Hollywood Studios.
Manager.
Yeah, she's usually not like this.
Yeah, she's usually worse.
I heard that.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I love that idea. How about some backstage passes?
Oh, Carl. Make it a stretch. In fact, make it a super stretch.
You then go to meet them in the alleyway, which is one of my favorite coaster stations of all time. It feels like you're actually outside in an alleyway. You can see trains launching into the darkness complete with a countdown, which gets you hyped up for the ride and maybe a little bit scared. Next, you get assigned a row and board your train, but first, we are almost at 1,000 subscribers, so if you like what you've seen so far, hit that subscribe button to help out the channel. Once you board your train, you pull around to the launch track and you'll probably take note of the speakers providing onboard audio which will blast music in your ears throughout the ride. The songs you may hear on the ride are as follows: Walk This Way, Dude Looks Like a Lady, Sweet Emotion, Back in the Saddle, Love in an Elevator, which is my personal favorite song to get and also my favorite Aerosmith song, 9 Lives, and Young Lust. The music will switch from song to song throughout the ride to keep things fresh and exciting. You'll notice the electronic sign overhead that says a whole bunch of different things to get you pumped for the ride. Then once everything is ready, you'll hear the countdown, which is one of my favorite moments on a roller coaster. This is followed by a 0 to 57 mph launch in 2.8 seconds straight into the first inversion, which is actually 2 inversions called a sea serpent roll. You then kind of meander a bit and you pass by some palm tree cutouts and then you pass through the O of the Hollywood sign. Again, truly iconic. You hit a brake run and see some road signs including the Civic Center and Beverly Hills. You then hit another inversion, that being a corkscrew. And honestly, after seeing a POV of Rock and Roller Coaster with the lights on, it seriously doesn't do that much, and I'm not trying to diss the ride or anything because I really do love it. It was my first big roller coaster and my first favorite roller coaster, and honestly, the theming still causes it to rank pretty high in my personal rankings. The theming and darkness mostly cover up the meandering, so just don't think about it and enjoy the ride. After doing some twists and turns, you hit the final brakes, but not before going through a donut, of course. And I don't mean like this, I mean like this. You pull up backstage and exit the ride vehicle into the gift shop with instrument cases and concert videos playing. But as of the last few years, they don't even sell Aerosmith merch here anymore and instead sell general Rock and Roller Coaster merch. So the last time I was there, you know I had to get an AirPod case to remember the last time I'd ever ride Rock and Roller Coaster starring Aerosmith. This has got to be one of my favorite gift shops at a theme park. It's such a vibe. Now let's talk about that Muppets Retheme. I understand why Disney would want to distance themselves from Aerosmith due to controversies and licensing fees. However, the decision to use the Muppets is quite baffling when there are so many great bands out there that would fit the attraction perfectly. My personal picks would have to be Van Halen, AC/DC, Fleetwood Mac, Queen, Pink Floyd, Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin, Rush, and I could keep going. Now, I don't think the Muppet Takeover is going to be bad by any means, and at its core it's basically the same ride. The only changes are really going to be the music and the pre-show. I hope some of the music ends up being covers of classic rock songs, as this ride is definitely meant for an older Disney crowd. And again, don't get me wrong, I love the Muppets, but I just don't know about this one. At the same time though, there's been countless times where a ride gets replaced and I'm upset about it, and then the new ride is actually really good. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. An idea I've always had for this ride is that instead of theming it to just one band, why not have a general rock and roll theme and have a bunch of different songs from a bunch of different artists? Imagine hearing Thunderstruck while on the launch track. That would be straight up cinema. As I was researching what songs could be featured on the Muppets Rock and Roller Coaster, I found an article on toughpigs.com from Jared Fairclough, I hope I said his name right, and he suggests that the entire audio of Muppet Vision 3D be sped up to 70 seconds and put on the ride, and that is honestly one of the funniest things I've ever heard, and that would be hilarious. I would also like to mention that a clone of this ride with all of the Aerosmith theming opened up at Walt Disney Studios in Paris in 2002. There was a lot of changes made to the queue and pre-show, and the on-ride theming was mostly replaced with lighting effects. But the actual coaster track was exactly the same as Hollywood Studios version. Despite the ride opening a few years after the original, it's already been rethemed to Avengers Assemble Flight Force, with many guests claiming the ride falls short of Disney's standards and is a huge downgrade. I've never been on Avengers Assemble Flight Force, but judging by the POVs, guest reception, and the fact that Disney has already added show elements to the ride, it doesn't seem like it lives up to the Rock and Roller Coaster or Disney's usual standards, along with the entire park of Walt Disney Studios itself. Walt Disney Studios is often considered the worst Disney park and was built on a much smaller budget compared to most Disney parks to go alongside Disneyland Paris, so it makes sense that the ride feels cheaper than other Disney coasters. But like I said, I haven't been here, so take my words with a grain of salt. Another interesting fact is that at Walibi Holland in the Netherlands, there is an outdoor clone of Rock and Roller Coaster with no on-ride theming. It's literally just Rock and Roller Coaster but outside. With the theming completely stripped, you can really see that the ride's layout is seriously nothing to write home about, and the theming is really what carries Rock and Roller Coaster. But anyway, let's make our way back to Orlando. As of December 1st, 2025, the pre-show has been completely removed to make way for the Muppets Retheme. This was completely unannounced, so many people experienced the ride in this state without even expecting it. On March 1st, 2026, the attraction will be giving its final rides, presumably to reopen later in 2026 as Rock and Roller Coaster starring the Muppets. Anyway, that's gonna do it for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed, and don't forget to subscribe if you like what you saw. I'm a little sick at the moment, so if my voice sounds weird, that's why, and that's also why my content has slowed down a bit lately, but next week we'll be back in business. Also, I made an Instagram account where I'll post short vlogs and other stuff that doesn't really fit my YouTube channel, so the link to that will be in the description. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.